eligible. So if you plan to calculate your zakah and it's $500, consider giving all of it, inshallah ta'ala, to this campaign. Jazakallah khair. I also wanted to invite you, inshallah, after Salatul Taraweeh is over, our community lounge is open. There's always tea and coffee and refreshments, plenty of seating opportunities in there. Please go enjoy. We've built this for all of you guys. And by the way, if any of you can make chai at home and wants to bring it, once or twice a week, please help yourself. Let us know that you're going to be bringing a couple of thermoses of tea and just leave them there. If you bake cookies, if you have sweets left over from iftar, share that with your community members, with your brothers and sisters, inshallah. Also, the children, we prefer that they stay in the Sunnah Club unless they are able to stay with us, inshallah, and remain silent, as much as children can. And I also wanted to remind you that our Quran contest is happening on the 22nd of March from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. There's 4 or 5 different levels. So depending on how proficient you are with the Quran, you can sign up. This is for all ages. You are welcome, inshallah, to join us. Our first Sisters Qiyam is on March 7th. There is a dedicated private Sisters Lounge for nursing mothers. Please ask our staff members if you are trying to find the room. We have a post-Taraweeh basketball next Friday, this coming Friday, inshallah. I have some dua requests here. All right. Someone that has been enduring a series of challenges that have deeply affected them both physically and mentally. At the age of 11, they faced a cultural shock, health struggles, the loss of loved ones, betrayal from friends, family conflicts and heartbreak from someone who was once meant to ask for her hand in marriage. Each trial has left that person feeling mentally drained, as one hardship followed another without pause. She is asking us to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fill her upcoming days with barakah and to grant her a successful and fulfilling career and to strengthen her iman and to bless her with a righteous and loving spouse. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it so for you and all of our brothers and sisters in the community. Allahumma ameen. Please make dua for one of our brothers in the community to have or sisters, to have a healthy child who is righteous and whose heart is full of Allah's love and the deen. I ask Allah to make it so for you. Allahumma ameen. Sister Saima is requesting dua for her daughter Sitara. She graduated her nursing program and is licensed as a nurse. Please make dua for her success as she's looking for a job. And it's been incredibly challenging. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open the doors of khair for you, my sister, and for everyone else that is vying to find a halal income. Ameen. Brother Abdul is requesting dua for his aunt. She passed away this morning after battling brain tumor since last year. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive her, grant her peace and bless her with the highest place in Jannah. Allahumma ameen. Last but not least, I really wanted to recognize some of our team members that have made this hall possible, that have made our Ramadan experience possible, the youth lounge, the community lounge, the coffee shop space. It's been an incredible effort that this team has put, and I wanted to particularly recognize, the Tarbiya House Roseville Chief of Staff, Sister Layla, who has been leading all of our staff, mashallah, in the last few months. I also wanted to recognize our operations manager, Brother Seamus, for playing an instrumental role in setting up the entire place for you guys. All of the things that you see around you. Our dear brother Nadir Kamal, who is a volunteer, helped us so much, the last few months. And also our office manager, Sister Farah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of them and all of our team members here in Roseville and all the locations and all the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all the masajid. Always remember them in your dua. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless them with the highest level of Jannah. Allahumma ameen. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We are on the journey to the hereafter. As I told you last time, as you come to the masjid, truly imagine that you are a passenger or about to become a passenger on that ship. Our masjid is that ship, inshallah ta'ala, through which we are able to sail to the akhirah. We sail to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to dock our ships by the shores of safety, by the gates of Jannah. I ask Allah for this to happen for all of us and our families and loved ones. Allahumma ameen. I talked about the yaqadha meter, that you need to make sure that the indicator of your yaqadha meter, your heedfulness, is as high as possible. And yesterday night I talked about how to gradually let loose of the shackles of this dunya, right? Not to hate dunya, but to assume that the destination, inshallah ta'ala, is better than what you are leaving behind. But I wanted to talk about, inshallah ta'ala, tonight something slightly different. Although here you are walking up the staircase that leads into the ship. You're about to board the ship very, very soon. But the manner by which you board that ship does matter. Again, the manner by which you board the ship does matter a lot. So there's two different types of people. There is going to be these good-looking passengers. They're wearing nice clothes. They're carrying their passports with the right hand. They're holding the rails with the left hand, and they're walking up their staircase, and they're being greeted by these nice-looking, tidy officers that smile on their faces and say, "Please come on board the ship. Have a nice journey." Right? This is one category of people. Versus the other category of people that will be wrapped up in shrouds and thrown into the fuel tank of the ship. They're both going to be on board the ship, but the way that you get into that ship will matter so much as far as the destination goes, right? Everything that we do in this life, brothers and sisters, matters so that the final moment of your life is concluded positively. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. What we do in this life will determine what happens to us at the very last moment when you take your last breath. It is either husnul khatima, which is a good summation of your life, a good conclusion, a favorable conclusion of your life, or su'ul khatima, which is a catastrophic summation of your life. The most unfavorable way to leave this world. Everyone belongs to either of these two categories, husnul khatima and su'ul khatima. A good summation and a bad summation. A favorable end and an unfavorable end of your life, right? Now, you might ask me, what does it matter? Isn't it about what I've done in my entire life and not the last moment? What if I messed up in the last moment? Wouldn't everything I've done before matter? I've been a good person for the most part. Why am I being judged based on the last moment? Well, Rasulullah said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ. Deeds are judged by the manner by which they were concluded. Wait a second, this sounds pretty dangerous. Now think about it. Someone lived a lifetime of good deeds, and then shaitan comes to you at the very last end of your life and plays with your head and messes up with your iman, and instead of saying La ilaha illallah, you start ranting about your life and your bank accounts and your investments and your crypto. And you don't say La ilaha illallah. I will tell you something that is quite graphic, I've never shared before because it affected me very deeply for a couple of years. I was asked to go and visit someone a few years ago who was on hospice care. An elderly person that I've seen at the masjid once in a while. And he was basically dying, and they called me because they said that the nurse said he's taking his last breaths. So they called me in order to make a prayer with him, before he leaves the world. And I arrive, he's in his early 70s, not extremely old. I arrive, I'm in his room, his wife, his children, the nurse are there. And I am asking him, Assalamu alaikum, do you remember me? And he looks at me and then he looks the other way. And he's mumbling things that I did not understand. And his wife keeps bringing her ear to his mouth, trying to understand what he's saying, and he's not making any sense. And I keep saying, Assalamu alaikum, brother, do you remember me? I am Imam Aziz from the masjid. And then he looks at me and then he looks the other way and he keeps mumbling. And then, I said, okay, let me give it a shot. Because he was having labored breathing. He was having labored breathing. And I figured he has like maybe 3 or 4 more breaths before he goes, right? So I say, brother, please repeat after me. La ilaha illallah. And then he looks at me and looks the other way. Say la ilaha illallah. And then he mumbles again and he looks the other way. He doesn't want to say la ilaha illallah. And the sunnah is that you try a couple of times, and if that person does not respond favorably, you have to stop, right? So I figured I'm going to say it 3 times and then I'll stop after the 3rd time. So I said, say la ilaha illallah. And then he screamed off the top of his lung, give me my beer. He screamed, give me my beer. And his wife was standing right next to me. She started sobbing and he said, Imam, I'm so sorry. He used to drink occasionally. On his deathbed, seconds before he died, what he's asking for is what? Is alcohol. He took 2 or 3 more breaths and he was gone. And I could not get him to say la ilaha illallah. And I was traumatized by that for the longest time. In fact, usually when I get asked to go to someone on hospice care, I try to find excuses because I don't know if I could handle another incident like this, right? I still visit people at the hospitals, but this was really terrifying. You might think right now, wait a second, is that even possible that someone lives as a Muslim and then at the very last minute of their life they trip? I say yes, happens all the time. Think about it. Today was a day of fasting, right? It's the 3rd day, by the way. 1/10 of Ramadan is already over. Can you believe that? 1/10 of Ramadan is over. So subhanAllah, imagine that you fasted the entire day. Our days of fast maybe about 12 hours, roughly speaking, right? Right now. So let's say that Maghrib is at 6. And literally at 5:58 you had a sip of water. Will your fasting count? Oh, wait a second. Imam, I fasted 11 hours and 56 minutes. I'm going to be judged because of what I did in the last 3 minutes? Come on, that's not fair. It is absolutely fair. Why? Because deeds are judged by how they ended. Not just how they were, but how they ended. If you are praying Salatul Maghrib, and then you broke your wudu seconds before you make taslim, what do you need to do after? You have to go make wudu, you have to come back, and you have to repeat your prayer, right? Wait, I did 3 rak'ahs and all of my last tashahhud, I just broke my wudu at the very last second. Come on, it should count. No, it doesn't count. And the same applies to a marathon. If someone is running a marathon, a 10,000 meter marathon, and then stopped 1 meter before the finish line, what happens to them? It's like they've never run. They lost. It's like they've never run. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala treats this dunya the same exact way. You live righteously so that you die righteously. You live on La ilaha illallah so that you die on La ilaha illallah, and you have husnul khatimah. You have a good summation of life. Your life is concluded with beauty and grace. In one of the battles, the Prophet ﷺ, just to show you, even at the time of the Sahaba, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they were fighting a battle, and one of the Sahaba fought valiantly. And then he died. The companions thought that he died as a shaheed. So Rasulullah and the companions, they're walking, kind of looking at the dead. And some of the companions said, oh, look at him. Hani-an lahu al-jannah. Hani-an lahu al-jannah. MashaAllah, look at him. He will be blessed with Jannah. And Rasulullah looked at them and he said, Bal huwa fin nar. He is in the fire. He's one of the Sahaba. And the messenger said, he is in the fire. Messenger of God, how come he died in battle as a shaheed? You taught us that those who died as a shaheed, they will be in Jannah, in the highest level of Jannah. He says he's not a shaheed. What happened to him? He says, أثخنته الجراح. He was injured so badly, فاتكأ على سيفه فقتل نفسه. He leaned on his sword and he killed himself. Because he was in so much pain, he couldn't handle it, he committed suicide. At the Prophet's time. Now, we Muslims, by the way, we don't believe that people who commit suicide will be eternal or in hellfire. We don't believe that. For us, it's like any murder. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish you in hellfire, but not for eternity. All right? Inshallah, eventually that person will go to Jannah. But the point is, Sahabi made a really bad decision at the end of his life and died, and he's going to go to hellfire. This is as real as it gets. You want to be aboard the ship? You want to sail to the hereafter? You have to live by La ilaha illallah, and inshallah ta'ala, die by La ilaha illallah. You have to make dua so that happens every single day. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran that I will help you if you ask my help. يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. Allah will give you steadfastness with the firm statement. What is the firm statement? La ilaha illallah. He will give it to you at the moment of your death, and He will give it to you in the afterlife as well. But you have to have lived by La ilaha illallah so that you are granted La ilaha illallah in the end. And you have to teach your children to live by La ilaha illallah so that inshallah ta'ala when they're up there in age and they're about to meet their maker, they also die in a state of La ilaha illallah. You might ask me, okay, I have a lot of people in my family that passed away. How do I know that they died in husnul khatimah? How do I know that they died inshallah ta'ala with a good conclusion? All right? I'll share with you a few examples from the Sunnah, right? In the Hadith, من كان آخر كلامه لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة. If the last of your words are La ilaha illallah, you will enter Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. I told you before about my father-in-law, Hajj Faraj. He was well known in the Folsom community. He was loved. He supported all the masajid, right? I've loved him as a father, right? He has. I am literally inundated in his favors. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. To see someone died surrounded by his family in his home, not on a ventilator, right? His wife was holding his hand, all of his kids around him, and all of his sons-in-law and daughters-in-law are around him. And then my mother-in-law, I will never forget that moment. My mother-in-law whispers to him, say La ilaha illallah. So he said, La ilaha illallah. Say La ilaha illallah, and then he says La ilaha illallah, and then say Muhammadun Rasulullah, and then he said Muhammadun Rasulullah, and then he died. It was the last thing he did. You managed to know a family member that the last words they said were La ilaha illallah, inshallah ta'ala, that person is going to be in Jannah, inshallah. Right? So examine your family members if you need to feel comfortable. This is one of them, right? Number two, من مات في يوم الجمعة أو ليلة الجمعة وقاه الله عز وجل من عذاب القبر. You die on a Friday or the night, the eve of a Friday, right? Like, Thursday night after Maghrib, or all of Friday, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect you from the punishment of the grave, which is a sign that you'll be protected from hellfire, right? And here's another one. Rasulullah said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, من تصدق وختم الله له بالصدقة دخل الجنة. If the last of your deeds was sadaqah, you enter Jannah. Wallahi, make it a habit, right? Every time before you get in the car, you never know, right? Car accidents, they're very common. Every time before you get in the car, make a sadaqah. $1 on Venmo to the masjid. Make it a habit, right? Before you leave the masjid, sadaqah. You enter the masjid, sadaqah. Before you go to work, sadaqah. Always be in the business of sadaqah, so that perhaps when the time comes, the very last of your deeds was an act of charity, an act of sadaqah. And of course, sadaqah is not just monetary, right? Sadaqah is when we smile to each other, is when help an elderly person, carry someone's weight, clear the road. You know the hadith, right? This fourth one will comfort a lot of people, right? وَالْمَرْأَةُ يَقْتُلُهَا رَضِيعُهَا. A woman that died in childbirth. A woman that died in childbirth. وَالْمَرْأَةُ يَقْتُلُهَا رَضِيعُهَا يَجُرُّهَا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ بِسُرُرِهِ. Will drag his or her mother with their umbilical cord into Jannah. That's what the hadith says in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, right? Remember these things. You have a family member that died in childbirth, inshallah ta'ala, she will be in Jannah as well. Now, also the shaheed. If you died as a shaheed, inshallah ta'ala, that person goes to Jannah, right? You know what? What's a good example of a shaheed? Rasulullah said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, الشهيد المطعون والمبطون والغريق وصاحب الهدم والشهيد في سبيل الله. 5 categories in this particular hadith, right? Someone that was stabbed to death. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us. Someone that was stabbed to death. Someone that had some type of an abdominal disease, cancer, liver, ascites, any of those things in the abdomen, right? And someone that died drowning. I ask Allah for His protection. Scariest thing ever. Because of all the pain and suffering that person went through as they drowned, Allah will wipe out all of their sins, right? And the 4th one is someone whose house fell on his head, Sahibul Hadm. Like all our brothers and sisters in Gaza, where all these buildings fell on their heads, they're all shuhada, even if they don't meet the enemy and they did not fire any weapons, right? And the 5th one, obviously, is the one that died as a shaheed in battle, carrying a weapon, defending his ideals. These are all shuhada. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ also says that al-hariq, someone that died in a fire, is also a shaheed. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our families, but if you know someone that falls in any of those categories, inshallah ta'ala, they will be a shaheed. And that means, inshallah, they're going to Jannah, right? And I want to end with this beautiful example of husnul khatimah. A good, beautiful, positive culmination of life, right? Hudhayfa radiallahu anhu. Hudhayfa, the Prophet's beloved companion, is dying. He's on his deathbed. And it was night time. It was the middle of the night, right? Closer to Fajr. And then he felt the presence of Malakul Maut in his room. And his daughter heard him say, Marhaban bil mauti, Rasulun ja'a ba'da ghiyab. I welcome death. The messenger of God is here after a long period of absence. This is what he's thinking. I will be with God soon. For him, the angel of death is a good sign, because now he's going to be taken to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he asks his daughter, أي وقت من اليوم هذا? What time of the day is this? فقالت له ساعتين قبيل الفجر. It's 2 hours before Fajr. So he made this dua, اللهم اجعلها ليلة مساؤها في الدنيا وصباحها في الجنة. Ya Allah, make this a night, the evening of which was spent in this dunya, the morning of which will be in Jannah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it so for every single one of us, our families and our loved ones. I ask Allah that we live honorably and that we die honorably. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we embrace the moment when it comes upon us. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our family members and loved ones who have left the world before us. And I ask Allah to unite us with them in al-firdaus al-a'la min al-jannah. اللهم آمين. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وقوموا إلى